It's almost 1st of July, which means we are only days away from you starting to think about lodging your next tax return. Today, I'm going to share with you 3 simple things that you can do to make this tax time less stressful. The first one is probably the most important decision you'll make, and is are you going to lodge your tax return yourself, or are you going to go through a tax agent? You want to make this decision early because this will help shape how you're going to prepare to get your tax return done. Some of the key things that you need to think about is how complex is your return, what's your expertise like when it comes to tax, and how much are you willing to pay for your return. You need to look at how complex your return is. If you've got things like investment properties or businesses, or maybe you've got other investments, the more complex it becomes, the more expertise you need, and therefore maybe you might go down the path of using a tax agent. Now be aware, the more complex your return is, the more it's likely to cost you. You need to look at what your personal expertise level is. How much do you actually understand about tax? Because it's going to be very hard to lodge your tax return successfully and maximize it if you don't understand tax. Now, if you've already got a really good understanding of tax, then you're going to put yourself in a better position to be able to lodge your own return. And the other thing comes down to how much are you willing to pay for your return and how much time are you willing to spend on it. One thing I suggest to people is look at what your own hourly rate for your employment is, or for you running your own business. How much are you getting paid per hour, and how long are you going to spend on this return, not only doing the return, but researching stuff for the return. If you're going to spend 5, 10, 15 hours doing the research and then going and lodging your return, it's going to quickly add up, and it might have been cheaper for you to go pay someone to do it. At the same time, if you've done this year in, year out, you already understand your own situation, it's only going to take you half an hour, then maybe it is best for you just to go ahead and lodge your own return. It's really going to come down to your own situation, how well you understand tax, as to whether you should lodge yourself or go through an agent. The second thing is especially true for those that are going to be lodging themselves, and it's educating yourself. Educate, educate, educate. The more education you can have on tax, the more likely you're going to maximize your return and reduce your audit risk. So whether it's going through and watching videos on my YouTube channel, which if you haven't already hit subscribe, make sure you do that. But it's looking for ways that you can educate yourself about your particular situation so that you can apply those learnings to maximize your return. So one of the key areas you're going to be looking at is deductions, and you want to understand what can you claim. And it's important to understand what makes up a work-related expense. So the ATO simply state that you must have spent the money yourself and weren't reimbursed. The expense must be directly related to earning your income, and you must have a record to prove it, usually a receipt. So you need to understand, is the thing you're looking to claim, does it meet that definition? If it does, then it's going to be deductible. If it doesn't, then it won't be. You really want to understand your own occupation, because your occupation is going to be a key thing in determining what is deductible. Each occupation is normally going to have a different set of things that people are typically claiming. Now, just because someone is claiming it in your occupation doesn't mean you can claim it. You need to understand that your situation might be different. And it's why I always advise people, don't trust listening to your co-workers for tax advice. 1, they could be getting it completely wrong in the first place. But 2, their situation could be different to yours, and what's deductible to them might not be deductible to yourself. It can be a great base point to do that further research or prompt those questions or look into your own situation and see if you've actually spent money in those areas, but don't trust that as your number one source for research. Now, my third tip is about understanding your due date. One of the biggest fears people have when it comes to tax time is not knowing if they're going to be able to lodge on time, or not even understanding when they are required to lodge. So let's have a look at the different due dates that the ATO provide us with. So the first is the 31st of October due date, and this is for anyone that's lodging their own return, or for people that have got overdue returns that were outstanding as at the end of the prior year. The next due dates are kind of more for larger businesses, so not likely to apply to individual returns. The next key due date for individuals is the 31st of March, and this is going to be for those that owed $20,000 or more in their prior tax return. So if you owed a large amount last year over that $20,000, you are going to have an earlier due date this year, even if your amount owing isn't as much. The final key due date is the 15th of May, and this is for those that are using a tax agent. So if you're using an agent to lodge your tax return, you are getting that extended due date of the 15th of May, unless you fall into one of those prior categories. So the main due dates to look at is 31st of October if you're lodging yourself, 15th of May if you're going through an agent, and just be careful if you've had a prior large debt in the previous year, or whether you have outstanding obligations, because that could bring your due date earlier. Now, obviously the other key thing is your payment due date. And the easiest way to check this is when you lodge your return, go into your MyGov account and it will tell you the payment due date if you owe money, or if you look at your notice of assessment, that will again give you a statement account that will show the due date for your payment. It is going to vary depending on how you've lodged and when you've lodged. If you're looking for more ways to maximize your return this year, I've actually put together this playlist, which is a bunch of videos I've done that are aimed at individuals looking to maximize their return. I'd love for you to go and check it out.